In the quiet, climate-controlled halls of the Atherton University Digital Archive, a collection of forgotten media sits dormant. Old films, obscure audio recordings, and early digital experiments, all meticulously preserved for academic study. But this archive holds a dark secret. A chilling pattern has emerged, a curse woven into the very fabric of its digital code. Every curator, every archivist, every single person tasked with managing this specific collection has met a tragic end. Severe depression, spiraling paranoia, and ultimately self-harm. The files aren't just old, they are toxic. This isn't a story of hauntings or ghosts in the machine, but of a far more terrifying reality, information that can poison the mind. Our story begins with Dr. Alistair Finch, the archive's most recent head curator. A man of impeccable credentials, renowned for his steady hand and sharp intellect. He took on the role with enthusiasm, eager to unearth the historical gems hidden within the university's oldest digital assets. His initial reports were filled with academic excitement, detailing the unique preservation challenges and the historical significance of the media. But within 6 months, his entries began to change. His language grew fragmented, his tone shifting from scholarly to fearful. He reported feeling a constant, oppressive sense of dread while working. He described a persistent low hum that no one else could hear. A feeling of being watched by the very data he was cataloging. Finch started avoiding the archive. He complained of debilitating migraines and nightmares filled with incomprehensible images and sounds, echoes of the media he was supposed to be studying. His colleagues noticed his withdrawal, his once vibrant personality replaced by a hollow-eyed anxiety. He was convinced something within the files was actively malevolent, an entity that had latched onto him. His final, desperate entry in the archive log read simply, "It's in my head. It won't let go." 2 days later, he was gone. His case was the third of its kind in a decade. The university could no longer ignore the pattern. The archive was sealed, and a specialized team was brought in. Not of historians, but of data scientists and neuropsychologists. Their mission, to dissect the digital ghost that had claimed 3 brilliant minds. The investigation began not with seance or ritual, but with rigorous data analysis. The team, led by Dr. Lena Petrova, a pioneer in cognitive informatics, treated the archive as a digital crime scene. They hypothesized that the psychological contagion wasn't supernatural, but a scientific phenomenon, a weaponized piece of information hidden within the vast collection. They cross-referenced the work logs of all 3 deceased curators, looking for a common denominator. Every one of them had spent significant time working on a single file, a short, experimental film from the late 1970s, designated Acquisition 734. The film itself was unremarkable. Abstract, grainy footage of urban decay, set to a dissonant ambient soundtrack. It was the kind of art house project that would normally be forgotten, a footnote in cinematic history. But as the team delved deeper, they found anomalies. Spectrographic analysis of the audio track revealed an infrasound frequency, buried beneath the audible score. It was a persistent low-frequency pulse, vibrating at just 19.3 Hz, just below the range of human hearing. But known in some studies to induce feelings of anxiety, dread, and even visual or auditory hallucinations. This was the hum Dr. Finch had described. It was a sound designed to be felt, not heard, a constant subliminal assault on the viewer's nervous system. But the audio was only part of the puzzle. The true contaminating element was visual. As they analyzed the film frame by frame, their software flagged a single infinitesimal anomaly. For 1/24th of a second, the image was replaced by something else. A flicker, too fast for the conscious mind to register, but perfectly perceptible to the subconscious. Frame number 401, non-visual data spike detected. Frequency, 19.3 Hz. This frame contained no image. Instead, it was a cascade of glitched data, a visual representation of the infrasound frequency. A silent, invisible screen encoded directly into the visual stream. The film didn't just want you to feel the dread. It wanted you to see it, even if you didn't know you were looking. The team realized they were dealing with a meticulously crafted piece of psychotropic media. The contamination wasn't a ghost in a traditional sense. It was a scientifically designed attack on the human psyche. With the mechanism of contamination identified, Dr. Petrova's team shifted their focus to the psychological impact. What was this file transmitting? They began to explore the history of Acquisition 734, tracing its origins back to a radical art collective known for their experiments in emotional transference. The group believed that intense human emotion could be recorded and embedded into media, not just as a theme, but as a literal, transferable energy. The film, it turned out, was their final, most dangerous project. It was shot in a building where a series of intensely tragic events had occurred. The artists, using their custom-built recording equipment, believed they weren't just capturing images of the location. They were capturing the residual emotional echo of the suffering that had taken place there. The grief, the rage, the bottomless despair, all of it, they claimed, was encoded into the film. This explained the horrific experiences of the curators. They weren't just feeling anxious because of an infrasound frequency. They were being force-fed a dose of pure distilled despair. The file was a psychological Trojan horse, smuggling the intense negative emotions of long-dead individuals directly into the minds of the living. The victim is overwhelmed by a feeling that isn't theirs. A wave of sorrow so profound, so alien, it shatters their own emotional equilibrium. They begin to experience a grief they cannot explain, a rage without a source, a despair without a reason. The file whispers the preserved emotions of the original subjects, driving the new host to mimic their self-destructive behavior. It's a psychological echo, a virus of the soul. Victims would hear phrases in their minds, fragments of the original trauma. It never ends, "Why did you look?" The question was not a threat, but a lament. The sorrow of the original consciousness, now trapped and endlessly repeating its final moments through each new victim. The team confirmed this by running simulations. AI models exposed to the file's data patterns began to exhibit behavior analogous to digital psychosis. Entering recursive loops of error and self-deletion, the file didn't just contain suffering, it was suffering. A perfect, lossless preservation of a human mind at its breaking point. This raised a terrifying ethical question for the university and for the entire field of digital preservation. We strive to save everything, to build perfect archives of human history and culture. But what if some information is too dangerous to be saved? If a piece of data can be psychologically toxic, a mimetic weapon that infects and destroys any mind that processes it, do we have a moral obligation to destroy it? Where is the line between preservation and propagation? By keeping this file, are we honoring the past, or are we simply reloading a gun for the next unsuspecting victim? The ghost is not an entity. It is pure preserved suffering, waiting patiently on a server for its next viewer. The team recommended the file's complete and permanent deletion. The university board is still debating. They are afraid to destroy a unique artifact, but they are more afraid of what happens if they don't. The file, Acquisition 734, remains in isolated quarantine. A digital leper, too dangerous to touch, too fascinating to destroy. It is a monument to the idea that some things once seen can never be unseen. And some data once created should never have been saved. The total size of the file is 4.7 gigabytes.